I just finished watching the much anticipated Miss Charm pageant, the very first Miss Charm pageant in history. And I feel like all of the pageant Instagrammers and bloggers have been talking about Miss Charm for weeks. I myself have been low-key following. I've been keeping it largely off of my YouTube channel because it is so new, but I thought that because Luyanda Zuma from Miss South Africa 2022 Top 10 Glory was going to be competing, that I had no choice but to watch. And in my previous video talking about Luyanda's participation, I threatened to make a video about the finals, and here we are. Beginning with the introductions of the actual pageant, it was interesting because it started off with sort of a theatre-y type of vibe. It was a lot of fun. Actually, there were actual bikes on stage. It was so campy and interesting, so I absolutely loved that. The music, though, there wasn't any lyrics in the music. It was clear that they were clearly trying to avoid copyright claims, which I actually can respect that. Like 1961 lyricless elevator music for me, and so it did definitely put me off the vibe. The girls also, while they were doing the little choreography routine, seemed a lot disorientated. Like some of them didn't really get the steps all of the time, didn't seem like they rehearsed enough, but okay. And when it came to the actual introductions of the individual girls, I was surprised that they had the girls scream their country names into the microphone, which is something that you guys know I hate. I've hated this forever. And just recently, I got proven right once again when the whole internet dogged on Miss Universe contestants.
Bitchy! Denmark! Denmark! Panama! Panama!
For screaming their names into the microphone weird, especially Miss France that one year. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about if you're a devoted pageant fan on the internet. It was absolutely brutal, so I cannot believe that they had these poor women screaming their names into the microphone. Aside from all of that, I actually thought that the stage was pretty good for a brand spanking new pageant. I mean, Miss Charm is brand new. There's never been a Miss Charm held before, and they actually had to postpone a couple of times. And so I'm excited to see that the stage at least was well done, if not the sound, because the sound engineer definitely made a few mistakes here and there, especially during the intros. It was sort of awkward because he didn't increase the volume between the contestants introducing themselves. So one contestant would introduce herself and then there's an awkward silence sort of with this faint elevator music in the background, and then the next contestant would come up. So they definitely need to work on their sound guy, whoever that is. For the judges, I can't possibly remember everybody, but I do know that Miss International 2012 was judging, Miss World 2015 was judging, as well as, of course, the glorious Miss Universe 2005 Natalie Klebova from Canada was also judging. When it came to the top 20, it was pretty interesting. We had Argentina, Brazil, Chile, China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Indonesia, Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, Venezuela, Ukraine, Thailand, South Africa, of course, and Russia, Puerto Rico, Poland, and the Philippines. But when I got done writing all of these women's names down, I realized that they had only called out 19 women, which was so strange because the hosts kept talking about, well, this is our top 20, this is our top 20. And I was thinking to myself, okay, but where is the 20th one though? Later on, just before Top 20 swimsuit, they actually announced that Vietnam was actually also part of the Top 20, wouldn't you know it? For the swimsuit performances, Argentina had a bit of an awkward thing going on. She didn't know that she had to start her performance at first, but I actually did love that red swimsuit on her. I thought that it suited her very well. I thought that Brazil had a stunning smile. She's such a stunning woman, and I felt like she did a great job in swimsuit. Chile, I also thought did a great job. I felt like she had the hip movements and everything. For China, however, China's performance was definitely very bland when it came to swimsuit. For Colombia actually brought less sass than I was expecting for Colombia to bring. Costa Rica was honestly just stunning. And after Costa Rica, of course, came the Dominican Republic, who, oh my goodness, Dominican Republic, I felt personally really brought it when it came to swimsuit. She had the walk, she had the face, she had the sash, she had everything I would ever want or expect from a contestant to have during swimsuit. Indonesia had the unfortunate luck of being right after Dominican Republic, and like I said, Dominican Republic was so glorious that I felt like Indonesia fell a bit short compared to Dominican Republic, who was just before her. Korea, unfortunately, I felt like had a very bouncy walk. Malaysia did do a cute little turn during her walk, which I thought was very good. Mexico, oh my goodness, I was obsessed with Mexico's thighs and her body as a whole. She has such a strong body. I loved it. Then a funny thing happened. The hosts actually called out the Netherlands, and it was actually Philippines walking, and when they called out the Netherlands, I was like, I didn't know the Netherlands was even in the top 20, but turns out she's not. They just called the wrong country name by mistake, which I don't know how that would happen if you have a card with the top 20 on it, unless the Netherlands was supposed to be in the top 20 originally, but she was switched out for another country last minute. I wonder if that could be the case. I wonder. Poland, I thought, gave a decent performance, and Puerto Rico, oh my goodness. At the end of the day, for me, swimsuit was won by Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. Puerto Rico, just like Dominican Republic, had the walk, she had the face, she had the sass, she had the hips, she had everything. Russia, I thought, definitely has some sort of modeling training in her past. For South Africa, I loved South Africa's hair. South Africa's hair is just everything. It suits her so well, but I do not like how she moves her hands. It feels like she doesn't know what to do with her hands. She was lagging behind Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic for me. I felt like Juliana needed some more refinement. She just wasn't coming across natural enough. Thailand, I thought, was very good with Ukraine. I absolutely loved what she did with the cape around her neck. I thought that was a very unique thing for her to do. Unfortunately, Ukraine did stumble towards the end of her performance. Venezuela's swimsuit performance, I thought, was good as usual. We always expect the best from Venezuela, especially when it comes to swimsuit. But I did feel like somehow she was hunched over a bit. And lastly, when it came to Vietnam, I thought that Vietnam was pretty okay. She did pretty well. Now for the top 10, we started out with Venezuela, and luckily the second to be called was South Africa, which I was like, yes, thank goodness my birth country made it. Then we had Brazil, Argentina, and Puerto Rico, which you guys know, I thought that Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic were the best in swimsuits, so I was very excited to see Puerto Rico make it as well. We also had Colombia, the Philippines, Costa Rica, and Indonesia. And then last to be called was the Dominican Republic. Now, at this point, I was getting so nervous because I was about ready to rage if the Dominican Republic didn't make the top 10 after that swimsuit performance that she gave, because she was literally one of the best. For top 10 gown, again, I have to make a complaint about the music. The background music was really giving elevator music. If you are a Sims player, it was really giving Sims background music. It just wasn't vibing with the feelings that gown is usually supposed to evoke. But first up was Argentina. I thought Argentina looked pretty, but her gown was very bland. I felt like her entire look as a whole was very bland. When it came to Brazil, I was a bit disappointed by the length of her dress. I thought that it was a bit short. Her performance also was was also bordering on careful. I don't know if it's because she had this entire performance mapped out in her head, but it did feel, I don't know if it's just me, it did feel very careful. Colombia did look like she was struggling with that first step a bit. I did, however, loved that simple red dress that she was wearing. That is the most gorgeously Colombian dress that I've ever seen. She also has a very beautiful face. Costa Rica came out in a very beautiful dress. I thought her performance was okay as well. For the Dominican Republic, again, she's just stunning. She blew me away. I loved her entire dress, the concept, very trendy with that sort of half cape, half shawl sort of thing that she was wearing, and the color suited her as well. Very carefully crafted performance, which I appreciated. I thought that Dominican Republic did really well in gown. With Indonesia, you know what, it's just her face expression. It didn't change enough, and it just, her mouth was just kind of open the whole time. It sort of reminded me of a deer in headlights. So I didn't really vibe with Indonesia's gown performance too much. The Philippines came out with this dress that had these 80s sort of power suit shoulders. That structure of dress is not necessarily my favorite. I don't think it suited her too well, but she did give an okay performance nonetheless. Puerto Rico, again, just like the Dominican Republic, I loved everything Puerto Rico was bringing. And it's so interesting because Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic sort of had opposite color schemes, but I just think Puerto Rico brought it. I could have actually seen Puerto Rico getting crowned at that moment. South Africa came out and she gave a very carefully crafted performance. I thought that she looked beautiful, and I also thought that the dress itself was nice, but I do think that another color that was maybe a bit warmer would have suited her more. Lastly, we had Venezuela coming out looking like an angel. I thought that Venezuela was marvelous. So overall, when it came to gown, my favorites were definitely the Dominican Republic as well as Puerto Rico and Venezuela. So for the top 6, I was very, very shocked because the first to be called was Venezuela, which expected because she was one of my favorites from gown. Second to be called was Colombia, third Brazil, then Philippines, then South Africa, which of course I was very happy about, and lastly Indonesia. I was so shocked that the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico did not end up making the top 6, because for me these two women were the clear standouts when it came to both gown and swim. Like, I was sitting there refusing to believe what I just heard, because these two women were clearly the best when it came to the previous performances that we had seen. Now, final Q&A was a mess. It was a mess. Oh my goodness, it was such a mess. First off, we had Venezuela. Venezuela gave a very, 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 very long answer in Spanish that the translator was expected to translate. Venezuela was also breathing very heavily, indicating nervousness. But the problem for me came with the translator, who I don't think she translated the answer the best. Especially because obviously I'm relying on her to be able to understand Venezuela's answer, and I honestly couldn't make out heads or tails about what Venezuela's answer was really about. So I felt like Venezuela was low-key sabotaged by the translator. But then again, Venezuela also should have had Venezuela also should have known to keep her answer perhaps a bit shorter, or to perhaps stop at regular intervals to give the translator time to translate her answer. After Venezuela, it was Colombia's turn, and you would think that the translator would just stay on stage, but the woman actually disappeared. And when they were looking for a translator for Colombia, the translator was nowhere to be found. And basically, Colombia had to give her answer in English, even though she needed a translator as well and wanted to use a translator as well. So I thought that Colombia didn't get a fair shot. I felt like Venezuela's answer was botched by the translator. Brazil came up. I thought that Brazil was very, very well spoken with her answer. Philippines came out and gave an answer that sounded very rehearsed. It was well rehearsed, however, the woman didn't stumble or stutter once, but it did sound a bit rehearsed. If you know me, you know I like authenticity in people's voices, especially. That's very important to me, and I felt like when it came to the Philippines, it was a bit rehearsed for me. South Africa gave a very fast answer. She was speaking very fast. Did her answer make logical sense? No. Did she have confidence when she said it? Yes, at least. And South Africa at this point, I was like, okay, if she doesn't make top 3, I will understand, because to be honest with you, her answer wasn't anywhere near what the question was. When it came to Indonesia really surprised me, because her answer was very clear, she was well spoken, it made logical sense, and to be honest, I was even more impressed by the fact that the judge who asked the question didn't ask it very clearly, and even me sitting at home not feeling any pressure didn't fully sort of comprehend what the judge was saying. So for her to actually give a correct answer to a question which wasn't clear in the first place is very impressive in and of itself. So like I said before, at this point I did feel like Indonesia had the best answer. I felt like Brazil was pretty good as well, and I felt like even though the Philippines' answer was a bit, it sounded rehearsed, it sounded a bit conceited, if I may, I did feel like these 3 women gave the best answers. South Africa's answer, she spoke confidently, but it didn't really make a lot of sense what she actually said. And then with Venezuela and Colombia, I actually felt sorry for these women, because I felt like they were like low-key sabotaged by the whole translator situation. And actually, I think the Miss Charm organization, it's on them for not correcting that situation as soon as it happened, because I don't think that was entirely fair. So the top 3 actually did end up being Indonesia, the Philippines, and Brazil. And this actually was revealed through an artist having to paint the top 3, and this took so long. This whole situation resulted in a new world record for the slowest top 3 reveal in all of pageant history. The judges, after top 6 Q&A, you can tell that the judges were a bit annoyed, especially after, I think it had to do with, Venezuela and Colombia's situation with the translator, because I actually saw Miss World 2015 leaning over to Natalie while Venezuela was answering her question, or while she was having her question translated, and I think that she was also picking up on the fact that perhaps the translator wasn't doing the best job. But during this whole painting situation, the camera going to the judges every now and then was so hilarious, because they all looked bored out of their minds. They were ready to be done with this. So for the top 3 Q&A, I felt like Indonesia still was very, she's very authentic. She gave a good answer, and I just like Indonesia. She seems so humble and, natural. For the Philippines, I did feel like her top 3 Q&A was better than her top 6 Q&A. I just do not vibe with the way that the Philippines projects her voice as if she is not speaking to people, as if she is speaking into the great abyss. It just gives a sort of, I don't want to use the word uncanny, but it just adds an inauthenticity to her voice when she answers, when she speaks with this unnatural tone and excessive volume. Now for Brazil speaks well. Brazil spoke very well as well in the top 3 Q&A. But I felt like Indonesia and the Philippines both gave answers concerning the people around them, concerning, things outside of themselves. The thing with Brazil is she gave a very self-focused answer, and I did not know whether or not this would make an impact on the judges or not. It was sort of a 50-50 situation. Of course, I think that her answer was rather good. I mean, she is a well-spoken woman, but I did think that maybe it wouldn't gel with the judges, especially because she was the last to answer. When the women who answered before her were so focused on the outside and their communities and helping others, uplifting others, etc., for Brazil to come and give such a self-focused answer might not have hit. After this, of course, it was time to announce the winners as well as special awards. The National Costume Award went to Cambodia, and Best in Alzai went to South Sudan. Now for the second runner-up, we had Indonesia, which I grew such a soft spot for Indonesia during top 6 Q&A and top 3 Q&A, but I was happy for her to have gotten to that point. So it was between the Philippines and Brazil for the win, and at this point I was sort of hoping for Brazil, even though I did think that during top 3 Q&A the Philippines technically had the best answer. So Miss Charm 2023 was announced, and the winner is actually Brazil, which I was a bit surprised by this, because like I said before, her top 3 Q&A was very, different in subject matter than the other 2 women, and the first runner-up is the Philippines. So that's what happened with Miss Charm 2023. I'm so excited that South Africa actually got into the top 6. I think that's a huge accomplishment in itself, and Luyanda should be very proud of herself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys thought about Miss Charm 2023. Of course, they have some refinement to do. They're not on the level of perfection that Miss Universe is yet, but then again, Miss Universe has been doing this for 71 years. This is Miss Charm's first year, so they still have a lot of things to figure out. So let me know what you guys thought. Thank you guys so much for watching. And a very important question, lastly, this question is for the ones who stuck around, okay? Should we add Miss Charm to the wall? Or should we give it another year and maybe see next year if Miss Charm is wall worthy? I don't know. You'll have to tell me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.